Right, so this is my podcast, and it's my very first podcast, my first attempt. So this is the pilot episode, so to speak. And when I say it's my first attempt, it's literally my first attempt at talking on anything ever. So I have no idea what I'm doing. And when I say this is a pilot episode, I literally mean this is a pilot episode to see if this is the kind of thing I actually want to even do, if I know how to do it. I literally don't have a fucking clue what I'm doing, so I'm just going to go with it and see what the fuck happens. And if it's good and I enjoy it, then I'll keep doing it, and if it's not, then I'll chalk that up to a failed weird thing that I did, and I'll have to live with that being on the internet. So yeah, the idea behind this podcast is it's called Let's Talk About, and it's literally a podcast where I talk about anything that bothers me throughout the day, or anything that I see and I just think that was fucking stupid, or that was amazing, or that was interesting, or just something to bring up. I'm going to talk about it. So that can be anything. That can be from stuff that's happened in the news that like everyone's heard about, or just stuff that's happened to just me personally, that just someone on the street did something and I thought it was funny, so I thought I'd talk about it. So this is also almost like a personal exercise for me, where I just get the chance to talk about my shit that happens throughout the day, but it's also something I want to use as a way to get my ideas out into the world about the way I think about things. And I don't expect people to give a shit, because there's that many fucking podcasts that do this kind of thing, where we all think that our opinions are fucking amazing and everyone cares about what we think. So a small part of me is doing it because it would be nice to have someone listen, but the vast majority of me is just doing this because I just want to get my ideas just somewhere out of my brain somewhere, and if no one listens to that, fine, I don't really mind. But I want to use this pilot episode as just to kind of figure out if I actually enjoy this, because talking into a microphone to no one is fucking weird. Like, it's bad enough for me talking to actual people in the real world, but talking at a computer screen, watching the little, the audio, the picture of the audio where you have like the spikes and it goes up and down as you talk. Fucking hell, I did sound technology at uni and I don't know the fucking names of it. You know what I mean? The audio wave that sort of goes when you talk. That was a terrible description, but anyway, watching that go up and down as I talk is fucking weird, and then knowing that I'm talking to people who probably aren't even there is even weirder. So I'm just going to talk for the next half an hour or so, just about random shit that I'm thinking about, but also about why I want to do this podcast. And when I say it, because it's called Let's Talk About, and exactly what the structure, what exactly what the structure of this podcast is going to be. So this is the point where I would have some funky intro music, so it would be like do 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 do. No, I'm not going to sing, fuck that. So the structure of this is that at the start of the show, get me, at the start of the podcast, it would be called, the episode would be called Let's Talk About Cheese. Let's talk about cheese, because that's my favourite placeholder subject. So let's talk about cheese, and then that would be like the subject of that show. And I don't necessarily want to restrict myself to having one subject, so it could be like, let's talk about cheese and dogs. But for simplicity's sake, I'm just going to say, let's talk about cheese. So that would be the name of the episode, and then for the entire episode, I would just talk about fucking cheese. Not fucking cheese, that would be weird. Although, you can get that cheese with holes in. No, that's going down a weird fucking... what's that thing called? That ASMR... anal sex magical rides? No. Audio... sensory... Oh, what is it? ASMR, I think it is. What the fuck? Autonomous sensory meridian response. And I think that's where like people like the sound of like, that's me, that wasn't me. Like, I don't know what that sounded like, but that wasn't me having a wank or anything like that. That was me chewing. Like, how the fuck did I get onto this? I was on about having sex with cheese. Anyway, right. So I was talking about fucking cheese or something. So the podcast would be called Let's Talk About Cheese, and then I would just talk about cheese and stuff that I find interesting about cheese. And I know it sounds fucking boring when I just talk about cheese, but in reality, it's going to be things that are relevant to society at the time being. So it could be serious stuff like I live in the UK, so Brexit is a big thing at the moment, so it could be serious things like that, or it could just be things that are annoying, like the way people talk to each other. Or actually, one thing that I definitely want to talk about, which really annoys me, is just fucking Twitter. Just Twitter as a whole, the whole concept of Twitter and how people talk on Twitter and the stupid fucking things people say on Twitter. And I'm going to get into a little bit of a thing now, and I'm going to save this for an entire episode because Twitter's a thing that I could rant on for hours for. But one thing that annoys me about Twitter is they constrict you to using like 200 words for everything. So what it basically forces you about, is it 200 words or 250 words or something like that, or 250 characters, sorry, no, that's even worse. They restrict you to using 250 characters for every response. And yeah, you can like bypass that by having like, I think they call it a thread or something, so you can do a 250 character response and then another one after that, and it all kind of links up. But that's not how it usually works. Usually people will just do like some quick zinger and people will be like, oh yeah, fucking you told him, dude. And I can't stand how people argue and talk to each other on Twitter, because if it's positive, then fine. Like if someone says something like positive, like, oh, you go girl, or something like that, yeah, all good, that's all you need. That's just to say you agree. You only need like one sentence to do that, like, yes, I agree, thumbs up, that's all you need. But to disagree, you need more than fucking 250 words to disagree with any actual meaningful thought. If someone says something and you think it's stupid, just saying, oh, you're fucking stupid, how the fuck does that help anyone? I mean, all you're doing is you're forcing people to talk in these like sound bites, essentially, in these quick sort of substanceless responses that aren't useful for actually talking about things, but they are good for gaining popularity. So Twitter has made it so we reward, because the whole point of Twitter is to gain popularity, that they have followers. That's literally, I don't know how you could think of a better way of defining popularity. You have people who follow you, and there's literally a number on how popular you are. And they've made it so that they reward popularity over actual intelligence, like being correct. Like I don't know how to exactly put a word on it, but they reward popularity over actually talking about things in a constructive way that leads to actual solutions to problems. And I fucking hate Twitter for that, because we have that problem anyway, just in normal society anyway. But usually what happens when people are just arguing in a pub, it's harder to just give like a quick response and then fuck off like it is on Twitter. Like on Twitter you can just say one quick response and then everyone retweets it and says that it's amazing, and you're seeing like this super like clever, witty person that's just destroyed. And that's another thing I hate, how they refer on Twitter. Everything's like, so and so destroyed Sam in a debate, and it's like, no, fucking destroying isn't like a good way of defining like an actual conversation. So anyway, if you're just talking to someone in the pub, you can't really have like a quick response and then just fuck off. You're in the pub together, like you have to talk. So usually what happens is people end up just feeling uncomfortable, and they either shout at each other or they fight, or I mean very rarely they will end up agreeing with each other, but at least that's more human and that's a more natural way of doing things. Whereas Twitter is just, it's incentivized us to be less specific and nuanced in our responses to things. So whenever we have disagreements on Twitter, it's always stupid and substanceless, and whoever gets the best like one-liner in, and that drives me fucking insane. Because I think most people will understand that if you want to have a conversation with someone about something serious, you need quite a bit of time. You need some time to really iron out the details. I mean, if you're just talking about, oh, I saw Game of Thrones the other day and it was good, and you just both agree, yeah, it was really good, then you don't need like a really long conversation with that. You just say, oh yeah, it was really good, I liked it when that happened, and they say, oh yeah, that was really good, I really liked that. That's all you need. But when you have disagreements, and I'd argue even when it's disagreements about stuff that doesn't really matter, like pineapple pizza, that's a fucking good one. People go crazy about people liking pineapple pizza. I don't give a shit about that. If you want to like pineapple pizza, you fucking go for it, you do you. But I don't like pineapple pizza. If you want to argue stupidly about pineapple pizza, I don't care. You waste your time doing that. You don't really affect anyone. You just annoy half of the people who do like it, and that's all that really happens. They're not going to stop selling it. It's just, that's all that happens. But when we're having serious discussions about like really serious things like religion or politics, or things that have even happened recently, like in America when they were having discussions about gay marriage and things like that, and whether religious people should be forced to do like gay wedding ceremonies, because technically it's, the law says they should, but that's like a serious discussion where you can't do that in a fucking tweet, but people still try, and people think that like they're actually contributing to a meaningful answer on these topics, and they're not. And even, I mean, rarely do I see like actual good answers for questions like these, and it's never been that good before. We've never really talked about these ideas in a very constructive way. Occasionally you'll have like people talk on the news, and they'll talk about something. I mean, saying that though, the news isn't that much better. Twitter gives you 250 characters, but the news you get, like the people who actually go on there as guests, they'll only get about 5 minutes to talk about their point, and it's always under the restrictions of that news programme, so you don't get to talk about what you want freely. You have to answer their questions and things like that. So we've been having this problem for a while where we're just shit at talking to each other about ideas and discussing things, and just Twitter's made it so much worse. And it's got like gradually worse over and over, because I remember when I was young, the first version of social media I remembered was MSN, which is basically the equivalent of Skype, but back in the day. Well, when I say Skype, I mean Skype Messenger. We didn't have like video calls or anything like that, but that made it so that we could still talk to each other in long conversations if we want to, but it was a lot easier to just fuck off. Like, you didn't have to, because you weren't talking on a personal level, like in person, if someone was annoying you, you could just block them. And it was so easy that people could just be dicks and then fuck off. It's kind of harder. I mean, you theoretically can do that in real life, but it's a little bit harder, and it's like you'd have to physically run away or something like that. And you can still do it, but it's not quite the same. So there was that, there was MSN, which kind of started that off. And then there was MySpace, and I can't really remember MySpace enough to know what that did. I just remember that basically being a profile page. I can't remember ever really talking on MySpace. But then Facebook came along, and then that was the start of the whole Twitter thing, where not only did it start this whole sort of I guess almost like narcissism, where you think that everyone gives a shit about what you had for tea or what you're doing right then. But it also started this thing where it encouraged small posts, because no one would ever read the long posts. People would just read the short ones where it was easy to digest and easy to comment on. And those are the ones that got likes. The ones that gave like a 500 word really like nuanced response to someone saying something like racist or something like that, or just something mean, they no one gave a shit about them, because no one could be arsed reading, because people are lazy. People are just lazy, and people have things to do. Everyone's busy nowadays, and people value their own time more than others, which I can understand that. I can understand people valuing their own time over other people's opinions, but it's easier to ignore someone's post than it is to ignore someone standing in front of you talking. So Facebook started that, and Twitter literally put a cap on it, literally said, no, you are forced to speak at this maximum level of like nuance. And I hate it for that. Like, I have a Twitter account just because I wanted to see what the fuss was about, and I just don't like it. It drives me mental. Like, sometimes I can't help but going on there just to see what people have said about certain events. So like in the UK right now, we had a new Prime Minister get elected called Boris Johnson, and I don't like him, and the country's kind of split on it. It's very much in the same way that things are in America with Trump. It's like, if the people who like him really like him, and the people that don't really don't. So you see all these Twitter wars going on, and I just think, I'm on the side of the people who don't like him, but you all sound fucking stupid because you're just talking nonsense so much. I've talked about that way too much now, because I should have saved a lot of that for the Twitter episode or the social media episode. But so going back to what I originally said, that's kind of the format that I'd be doing with the whole sort of series of Let's Talk About. I would be uploading an episode called Let's Talk About Twitter, for example, and then I'd just talk for 30 minutes or an hour, whatever it is. Part of that also would be doing what I just did, which is just me ranting, but the other half of it would be me actually going to the specifics about the reality of certain things. So Twitter is that's just a pet peeve of mine. But if I'm talking about certain, like say a behaviour of someone, or just humans in general, say it was a serious discussion about like, something that has interested me, which I'm going to talk about on another episode, is how we find it really hard to admit that we might be wrong about something. So that's like on a sort of biological level, it's something that's ingrained in all of us, that we just find really difficult to admit that we might be wrong on a certain subject. It's very easy to believe that you're right about things, because everyone thinks they're the smartest person in the world. But even in the face of like loads of proof, and you might be the only one in the whole room that doesn't believe in something, people are still reluctant to change their minds because they think they're always right. And when it comes to things like that, which I definitely want to talk about, that requires a lot of there's a lot of science behind that, and actual like deep diving into the specifics. So for episodes like that, I would actually be going online and Googling things, and as I talk about things, making sure that I'm not bullshitting you, like I'm actually talking the truth and trying to learn a bit about how things work as I'm doing it. So that's going to be another thing, and there's going to be episodes where I don't do that, and there's going to be episodes where I do a ton of that. That's probably going to be something that I don't do straight away, just because that might be hard for me to do at the same time, like recording it and Googling shit at the same time. But eventually that's what I want to do. And eventually, this is way in the future, but eventually I want to do like not interviews, that's the wrong word, but like just where I talk with people. So I'd get like someone I know on, and we just talk about shit that we both find interesting, and have like a 30-minute or an hour talk about a subject or subjects, or I mean, it's unlikely that I'd talk about that person's personal life because they're just going to be people, so no one's going to be shit about that. But just generally having a chat about things, that's something that I want to do eventually. So that's going to be the sort of the three wings of the show. But for the first few episodes, all I'm going to do is let's talk about blah, let's talk about shit, and then it's just going to be me talking about something I find interesting or something that's happened in the day. So that's basically the concept of the show. I've called it a fucking show again. I feel like calling it a show is really like ambitious for what I'm doing right now, because it's literally just me talking into a microphone. A show implies that there's a fucking audience and it's like friends and shit like that. So I'm literally just going to call this what it is, a shitty podcast of me talking to no one, probably. Or maybe there's one person, maybe there'll be one person listening to this, and to you. I'm going to call you Jerry. That's your name. You're Jerry from. I'm gonna call you Jerry, and I'm picturing you as Jerry from Rick and Morty. You're my ideal audience member, and you. Every time I talk about the audience, I'm talking to you, Jerry. So Jerry, thanks for listening. How do you sign off these things? Is that how do you just say I'm signing off? That makes it sound like I'm in a like a space shuttle. No, I don't know. Right. So I'm going to go now. I will press the space bar and I'll end the show. So, show, I call it a fucking show again. Right, bye. See ya.